how to nail the first 30 seconds of an insurance phone call. And this one is a tough one. I remember when I first started, it was so hard to not sound like a telemarketer. Why is that, Craig?
I think there's a lot of nervousness that goes into the call. You're excited, a lot of different emotions running through the head as you pick up that call and you anticipate somebody answering on the other end.
Yep. And it's so important too, because in that first few seconds, you could completely lose them. If you can keep them longer than 30 seconds, you're almost guaranteed to be able to do the quote. Yeah. It's really that initial opener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a story that one of our friends, Agent Josh over in California, he told us a story about somebody called a sales guy that got through all the people at his agency, finally got to him, and he remembered this guy. He stood out because the guy had such great tone. He was so upbeat. He doesn't remember what the guy was selling, but he remembers the guy.
Yeah. And that's so important too, because those are the things you don't think about, that as an agency owner, you might have that sales guy that jumps on the phone and you're thinking I got to have that best script ever.
Yeah.
It's not the script. It's the way they're making that person feel on the phone. Does it make them feel like they're going to be sold to? Does it make them feel like ejecting from the phone call? And it starts with us as the agency owner projecting that onto the salesperson, and then the salesperson projecting that. One of the tips that we always use in our agency, that you do too, is that initial opener has to sound like a friend is calling a friend. Because that initial knee-jerk reaction to a telemarketer or salesperson is click.
Click, or I'm just looking, or I'm not interested, right?
That's right.
Some kind of stop. Right? Yeah. We don't want them to be able to put the brakes on it. And it's a lot harder to put the brakes on somebody that is super upbeat, super nice, and seems like they love what they're doing.
100%. It's that whole thing. Once a person is talking to you for even a little bit of time, if they invested even a little bit of time with you, they feel bad about just hanging up the phone. They don't feel bad initially at the very beginning. So that initial split second, that initial part of the phone call can be the difference between actually quoting a ton of people or not quoting anyone.
Right. And there's a fine line too that develops over time, the ability to be able to kind of read the situation, read the tone very quickly, and know what level to be at. Right? Because there is a certain level of matching and mirroring that has to go into it. As an example, somebody coming in really hot, really fired up, calling my wife, right? As a sales call, she'd be click. She doesn't want that, right? It's too high energy. She wants something a little bit more steady, mellow.
It's so true. Yeah. You don't want to come in too hot. And then if listening to us, you're thinking, I got to come out of the gates like them. And it's not true. I mean, the one thing that I tell our salespeople all the time is, if you're calling your friend and you're excited to tell them something, how do you show up?
Yeah.
That might not sound excited to me or somebody else, but it'll sound authentic. It'll sound like something that I'd be interested in hearing because it's coming from their voice.
Right.
And it helps them to understand, get them out of that sounding like a telemarketer role and more into how do I normally talk?
Yeah. And it makes me think of, this is the best thing that somebody could do, or I wish somebody had said to me when I was young and I was on the phone and I was making these dials, talking to leads and selling the coverages. One of the things that would have been really good was to approach it the same way that we approach the whole telefunnel idea, right? The process is it's non-emotional and let's test, right? We don't know in North Carolina with commercial insurance making dials if it's different. Well, it is likely different than calling personal lines in Texas, right? So we may have to adapt depending on where we are, which agency we're representing, all of the different things, so we can test it, right? You make that call, you make that connection, and we want to be consistent. Do it over and over that same way, and then look at the results after a week, maybe, right? As a producer, this can be done. You could say, okay, I'm going to do super over the top on every call for this week and see how that goes. Right? And then the next week, take it down a notch. Do that on every call. And now compare the results.
Right.
If the results are better in the second scenario, you're now moving towards the right track. You can test a little bit less, but this is what you could do in every aspect of your script, right?
Yep. So as you're thinking about this, know that first 30 seconds is everything. It'll double the amount of sales that you'll get if you nail that right. It might not seem like an important thing. It might seem like a ridiculous thing to keep practicing over with your sales reps or whatever, but but like do this and understand, how do they sound? Like, are we getting hung up on a lot? Like the difference in what you will make is drastic.
Right. Because the bigger the change at the top of the funnel, the bigger the impact down at the bottom. If there's 100 leads come in and you make contact with 20 of them, and then about 2 would normally result in a quote, right? That's just kind of the basic numbers. Well, if you could improve that to 4, you just doubled the throughput of that funnel.
Yep. And this is how you start selling a ton as an insurance agency. So let's take a couple action steps here. Yeah. Do this right now. When you get off the phone, go to your lowest selling sales rep and listen to just the first 30 seconds of 5 of their phone calls. And then you'll know how they're doing. And you'll know how much money you're going to make just by listening to that.
Yeah. First 30 seconds.
That's it.
Yeah. Record them, play it back for them.